Julius Caesar, the man who changed Rome forever. Early life and rise in politics. So, let's start at the beginning. Julius Caesar was born in 100 BCE into the ancient Julian clan, which claimed descent from Aeneas, the son of Venus. That already gave his family some serious mythological bragging rights. But the truth was, by the time Caesar was born, the Julian family wasn't exactly swimming in power. They were respected, sure, but not at the very top. Caesar had to climb. As a young man, Caesar was thrown into chaos almost immediately. Around 82 BCE, the dictator Sulla came to power after a bloody civil war. Sulla was suspicious of anyone connected to his enemies, and Caesar happened to be married to Cornelia, the daughter of Cinna, who was one of Sulla's political rivals. Sulla ordered Caesar to divorce her, but Caesar refused. That was insanely dangerous. Sulla stripped him of his inheritance and priesthood, forcing Caesar to go into hiding. Here's where it gets wild. Sulla supposedly said of Caesar, "In this Caesar there are many Mariuses." That was a warning. He saw the potential in Caesar to become another great rival to the Senate, like Marius before him. For a man as ruthless as Sulla to be worried about a 20-year-old kid says a lot. Eventually, Caesar was pardoned. But by then, he had already shown the kind of stubborn courage that defined his career. He left Rome, joined the army, and quickly made a name for himself. He served in Asia Minor, where he showed ridiculous bravery during the siege of Italy. He even earned the Civic Crown, one of the highest military honors in Rome, for saving the life of a fellow soldier in battle. And then came the pirate story. On his way to study rhetoric in Rhodes, Caesar was kidnapped by Cilician pirates. Most people would have begged for their life. Not Caesar. He joked with them. When the pirates demanded 20 talents of silver for ransom, Caesar laughed and insisted they ask for 50 because he was worth more. While in captivity, he treated the pirates as if he was their leader, writing poetry, giving speeches, and even telling them straight to their faces that once he was free, he'd hunt them down and crucify them. The pirates thought he was joking. Spoiler, he wasn't. As soon as the ransom was paid and Caesar was released, he raised a fleet, hunted the pirates down, captured them, and had them crucified. But in typical Caesar fashion, he ordered their throats cut first so they wouldn't suffer too much. That combination of ruthless and pragmatic, that was Caesar in a nutshell. By the time he returned to Rome, Caesar had everything he needed to rise. Family connections, military honors, charisma, and most importantly, ambition. Conquest of Gaul. Fast forward a bit, and Caesar became consul in 59 BCE through a political alliance with Pompey the Great and Crassus. This partnership, known as the First Triumvirate, was basically a power-sharing deal. Caesar got the consulship, Pompey got land for his veterans, and Crassus got financial perks. Everybody won. After his consulship, Caesar was given the governorship of Gaul, and this is where his legend really exploded. Gaul was not just France, it included much of modern-day Belgium, Switzerland, and parts of Germany. Rome technically controlled parts of it, but much of Gaul was fiercely independent. Caesar spent nearly a decade there, and his campaigns were brutal, brilliant, and often shocking. Take the Helvetii, for example. This Celtic tribe wanted to migrate west, but Caesar claimed they threatened Roman allies. He intercepted them and defeated them at the Battle of Bibracte in 58 BCE. Caesar turned this into propaganda, framing himself as the defender of Roman territory. But it wasn't just about defending Rome. Caesar was building a personal empire. He documented all his campaigns and his commentaries on the Gallic War, which he wrote in a straightforward, almost humble-sounding style. It was propaganda gold. Romans back home read these reports and thought Caesar was a hero. Now, one of the craziest moments in Gaul was the Battle of Lycia in 52 BCE against the Gallic leader Vercingetorix. The Gauls had united under this charismatic chief, and Caesar faced his toughest challenge yet. Vercingetorix fortified himself in the stronghold of Alesia, thinking he could outlast the Romans. Caesar, instead of attacking head-on, built massive fortifications around the city to trap the Gauls inside. Then, realizing reinforcements might come, he built another wall facing outward. Think about that. Two walls, one to keep Vercingetorix in, one to keep help out. It was an engineering masterpiece. When Gallic reinforcements did arrive, Caesar's army fought on two fronts, inside and outside. Against impossible odds, Caesar pulled off one of the most famous victories in Roman history. Vercingetorix was captured, paraded through Rome, and later executed. By the end of the Gallic Wars, Caesar had expanded Rome's territory massively and made himself the most famous general of his time. He also killed or enslaved millions, which even some Romans thought was excessive. But back home, the average citizen adored him. He had money, glory, and an army that was fiercely loyal to him personally, not the Roman Senate. And that loyalty would soon matter a lot. Crossing the Rubicon in civil war, Caesar's success in Gaul made him a superstar, but it also made the Senate nervous, especially Pompey, his old ally. Pompey had once been Caesar's partner, even marrying Caesar's daughter Julia, but after her death, their alliance crumbled. Soon, Pompey aligned with the Senate against Caesar. The Senate ordered Caesar to disband his army and return to Rome as a private citizen. That would have left him vulnerable to prosecution by his enemies. Caesar wasn't about to let that happen. In 49 BCE, he made the fateful decision to cross the Rubicon River, the boundary between his province and Italy. Crossing it with his army was illegal. It was an act of war against the Senate. According to legend, Caesar said, "Alea iacta est," the die is cast. With that, the Roman Republic plunged into civil war. Pompey and many senators fled Rome, heading east to gather forces. Caesar, moving fast as always, seized Rome without resistance. He then marched into Spain and defeated Pompey's forces there before turning east. The decisive showdown came in 48 BCE at the Battle of Pharsalus in Greece. Caesar's troops were outnumbered, but his veterans were disciplined and brilliant under his command. Against the odds, Caesar crushed Pompey's forces. Pompey fled to Egypt, thinking he'd find refuge. Instead, he was betrayed. The young pharaoh Ptolemy III had Pompey murdered, hoping to impress Caesar. But when Caesar arrived and was presented with Pompey's severed head, he was disgusted. Pompey had been his rival, but also once his ally and even family through marriage. Caesar reportedly wept at the sight. Caesar and Cleopatra. And now we get to one of the juiciest parts of Caesar's story, Cleopatra. When Caesar arrived in Egypt, he found the kingdom in chaos. Cleopatra and her younger brother Ptolemy III were locked in a civil war over the throne. Cleopatra, ever resourceful, knew she needed Caesar's support. The famous story goes that she had herself smuggled into Caesar's quarters, rolled up in a carpet, possibly a linen sack. When she was unrolled, Caesar was captivated. The two quickly became allies and lovers. Cleopatra was about 21. Caesar was in his early 50s. Their relationship was political as much as romantic. With Caesar's backing, Cleopatra regained her throne, and Ptolemy III was defeated and killed. Cleopatra later gave birth to a son, Ptolemy XV, better known as Caesarion, literally Little Caesar. Whether Caesar was truly his father is debated, but Cleopatra certainly presented him as such. Caesar spent several months in Egypt, longer than he probably should have. Many in Rome were shocked, but he wasn't done adventuring yet. On his way back, he was caught in another war, this time against King Pharnaces of Pontus. Caesar defeated him so quickly that he sent back the famous three-word message to Rome. Veni, vidi, vici. I came, I saw, I conquered. Dictatorship Reforms. Back in Rome, Caesar was now the undisputed ruler. He was appointed dictator, initially for a year, then 10 years, and eventually for life. This terrified the Senate, which had spent centuries fighting to prevent any one man from becoming king. But Caesar wasn't just about power, he genuinely tried to reform the Republic. He tackled debt, expanded the Senate, reformed the calendar, creating the Julian calendar, the basis of our modern system, and launched public works to employ the poor. He also granted Roman citizenship to many people in the provinces, expanding what it meant to be Roman. Still, the way he concentrated power in himself, wore the purple robes of kings, and even had statues of himself erected, made many senators feel he was aiming for monarchy. And in Rome, being called a king was the ultimate insult. the Ides of March and Assassination, which brings us to the Ides of March 44 BCE. A group of senators calling themselves the Liberators plotted to kill Caesar. Among them was Brutus, who had once been close to him. Some sources even suggest Brutus might have been Caesar's illegitimate son, though that's debated. On the morning of March 15th, Caesar's wife Calpurnia begged him not to go to the Senate. She had nightmares of his murder. The soothsayer famously warned him, "Beware the Ides of March." Caesar, though, ignored the warnings. As he entered the theater of Pompey, where the Senate was meeting, the conspirators surrounded him. At first, Caesar resisted, but when he saw Brutus among them, he reportedly said, "Et tu, Brute? You too, Brutus?" Whether he really said it or not, the words became legendary. Caesar was stabbed 23 times. His blood pooled at the foot of a statue of Pompey, his old rival. The conspirators thought they were saving the Republic. Instead, they unleashed more chaos. Legacy: after Caesar's assassination, Rome didn't return to the Republic. Instead, it plunged into more civil wars. Caesar's supporters, led by Mark Antony and Octavian, his adopted heir, later known as Augustus, hunted down the assassins. Eventually, Octavian would emerge victorious and become Rome's first emperor. In other words, Caesar's death didn't save the Republic, it ended it. But Caesar's impact went far beyond politics. His writings, like the Gallic War, are still studied today. His calendar reforms shaped how we tell time. His name itself became a title. Caesar in Rome, Kaiser in Germany, Tsar in Russia. He became the model of what it meant to be a ruler. Caesar wasn't perfect, he was ruthless, ambitious, and often brutal. But he was also charismatic, visionary, and unafraid to break the rules to reshape the world. Love him or hate him, there's no denying that Julius Caesar changed history forever.